On October 8th of 1871, a chunk of Chicago burned to the ground and became what we know as the Chicago Fire or the Great Chicago Fire. Within 24 hours of the fire being put out, Chicago was already being rebuilt. Within 20 years, it was the most architecturally ambitious, economically explosive, and culturally electric place in the world. The fires did not get in the way of Chicago's future. They paved the way for Chicago's future. Before the fires, Chicago was built on mud and wood. I mean, everything from buildings to even bridges and sidewalks were made from wood. It was not a very safe city if a flame took place, in which it did. And the fire did expose this. The fire burned 2,000 acres of the city across 2 days. It destroyed over 17,000 buildings, left 100,000 people homeless, and killed 300. And it cost around $200 million of damage in that day, which is around $5 billion today. So a lot of money. But within days of the fire happening, aid poured in from everywhere. Not just from American and Canadian cities, but also from England and Europe. And matter of fact, the English Queen at the time, Queen Victoria, even sent a personal message sending her condolences about the city and the tragedy. And actually, the Chicago Public Library spurred from an English donation. Now, of course, they probably would have had a library had it not been for the English, but I assume the English helped with the architecture and also just getting the library built faster because of the money. And since the fire wiped out 2,000 acres and 17,000 buildings, there was a blank canvas in Chicago. And architects from all over the world saw that and took time to come to Chicago and build their dream city. Chicago boasts that it had one of the first skyscrapers in the world, possibly the first. It was the Home Insurance Building, and it was built by William LeBaron Jenney. Now, sure, Michael Jordan played in Chicago, but he did not build the first skyscraper. That was LeBaron Jenney. Not to be confused with Michael Jenney. Totally different guy. But after these fires, of course, how do you bounce back as a city after you were just burned to the ground, right? Now you have all these buildings coming up. You got to implement strict building codes that ensures that this doesn't happen again. Chicago had, at the time, some of, if not the strictest building codes. And they're actually responsible for pretty much everywhere in the world that builds safely. That came from Chicago. Without Chicago, it probably would have taken a few more tragedies for people to catch on. But Chicago realized we can end more tragedies if we just go ahead and do it. It's going to be harder, but we'll put in codes so that this doesn't happen again. So the world can thank Chicago for this. I mean, Chicago was built so fast before the fire because you had all this money coming in. People were like, I don't care how it's built. I just need it built. And so it was not built safely. And not even 20 years after the fire, Chicago was the second largest city in the U.S. I mean, you got to think there's all these workers coming in to help rebuild Chicago. And then, wait, this is a great city. Let me just stay here. And then more workers come in because they're like, wait, there's a department store that becomes the model for all department stores, right? Like Walmart, Targets, all those types of department stores, Costco, Sam's. That kind of stemmed from Chicago. Not exactly all those corporations, but the thought of how the department store was built. In 1893, Chicago actually hosted the World's Fair. Now that's 22 years after the fire, where electricity, the zipper, Cracker Jacks, and even the Ferris wheel were all introduced at this World's Fair. It sent a message that Chicago was one of the most forward-thinking cities. Chicago was not rebuilt, it was revolutionized. It was not revamped or anything. It was a totally new place. Old Chicago and New Chicago are not the same. Sure, they have maybe the same values. They're hardworking people. But it's totally different. It's revolutionized Chicago. The fire revolutionized Chicago. And Chicago gained a mythology from the fire. I mean, look at New York City. It's the same thing. It became a city that knew it could survive anything. You have two planes come and hit towers. Who's ever thought of that? Who ever thought that idea up? But now it happens, and you see New York City come back stronger, and then you see Boston get bombed, and what's their tagline? Boston strong. A tragedy creates a mythology once you survive it. It creates the I will survive. And that became Chicago's motto unofficially, was I will. After the fires, everything was I will. How are we gonna rebuild? I will. Who's gonna rebuild? I will. How are we gonna survive this? I don't know, but I will. It embedded this toughness into Chicago's culture. I mean, Chicago had a chip on its shoulder because of New York City being this wonderful and beautiful city. Chicago was not that at one point. It was dirty. It was burned to the ground. New York was always a great, beautiful city, but Chicago had to work at it. Chicago had to build itself back, claw itself back from destruction to be a great city. And that chip is responsible for some of the greatest architecture, literature, music, business in American history, and not just American, but the world history. Like you have Kanye West, need I say more? Like Chicago became a culture of its own, similar to New York City, and even Los Angeles now. These places have a culture. They build a culture. Sure, everywhere has a culture. You could come into my hometown and be like, oh, I see the culture. And you could probably fit in with little to no exceptions. But going to Chicago, going to New York, there's a culture there that's ingrained in the people that grew up there, that have lived there for many years. You don't just build that, okay? That's forged. In the fire, it forged a culture. Because of the tragedy, it knew it could survive. It knew it would bounce back harder, better, stronger, faster, smarter. That don't kill me. The fire did not take Chicago's future. It once again, it paved the way for Chicago to build one. And Chicago executed it perfectly.